welcome back to yet another funky game-breaking Duel Links skill episode, where we go over different skill effects that will make your non-Duel Links friends go, "What?" Okay, heads up, the pacing on this one's gonna be kinda weird because as I was writing this, one of them went way longer than it probably should have. Let's start with that one. Skipping game phases. Like most games, Yu-Gi-Oh! Has rules and phases that dictate what things can happen and when. For example, drawing in the draw phase, effects lasting until the end phase, or cards that can only be used during the main phase. The one relevant to today is maintenance costs that must be paid during the standby phase, the phase where you just take a breather after you had to do the strenuous act of drawing a card. When D, that's what we'll call it until they inevitably add another D into it. When DDD came out, an archetype an archetype that has standby phase maintenance costs that can outright kill you if your life points are low enough, Konami decided to give declan a bit of favoritism, or as Konami calls it, a skill, to stop himself from offing himself with his own cards. Now, how do you think Konami fixed this maintenance cost? Go ahead, guess. I'll wait. Alright, if you said something reasonable, like, oh, DD cards don't have to pay their maintenance cost, you would be wrong. The fix was called contract procrastination, which says that if you have a dark contract on the board, you can just skip your standby phase. Now, if you've been playing card games for any amount of time, usually effects that outright skip phases are a bad idea, and abuse this mechanic people did. For starters, you can skip all maintenance costs, like say Golden Castle of Stromberg, requiring you to banish 10 cards face down.
How are you not dead?
I have no idea!
Lava Golem burning you, or Imperial Order's cost, which is not in the game by the way, just in theory. This can also skip over your opponent's effects, the most notable example at the time being Fire Kings, not the new Fire Kings with
Ball.
the old Duel Links version, which relies a lot on Gawunix special summoning itself during your opponent's standby phase and nuking their monsters, which just doesn't happen if they have no standby phase. Now this was nerfed from being usable every turn to being usable once per duel, but I'm sure at some point it'll be ripe for exploitation again. Adding pendulum zones. Anyone that's played the TCG is probably pretty curious how pendulum zones work in a 3-column format, given how convoluted they used to be between different master rules. And the answer is, it's pretty much just how it is now, allowing you to use your outermost spell and trap zones as pendulum zones. Wait, so you're left with just one spell trap zone? Yes, unless you use a skill. There's multiple skills in this game that just invent pendulum zones onto your field, giving you back full use of your spell and trap zones again. And when that didn't make pendulums playable, they then made them generate an absurd amount of card advantage, ranging from playing pendulum scales straight from the deck to adding cards straight to your hand and or extra deck. Fun fact, there's one deck in this game that has pendulum support and needs its back row and has a pretty good skill, and that skill doesn't give you pendulum zones. And that deck is Crystal Beasts. So if you're wondering why they never run Crystal Keeper or Master, it's because they literally can't fit it on the board. Funnily enough, they do run a pendulum monster, which is Magicalabra, to consistently give them access to Xyz monsters, materializing cards into your hand. Someone mentioned that I should bring this up in a bit more detail, but there's tons of skills that don't just search cards from your deck, but they straight up invent them and materialize them in your hands from the Aether. Probably the most common example would be Draconic Contact. Yes, the skill that searches Super Poly from last time. But did I tell you that it also just spontaneously creates a polymerization in your hand? On top of that, some of these skills, like Draconic Contact, don't actually have once per duel limits, so you can kinda just keep making polymerizations so long as you don't run out of materials for the skill activation.
What the hell?
This can also be seen to an extent with Extra Extra, a skill that's extra bad, which lets you draw a card twice, and also with Pegasus's creator skill, which really needs a rework because currently it'll either draw you 3 cards that might win you the game, 1 card that's probably too late to use after losing 2,000 life points, and 1 card that will definitely lose you the game right there. There's a bunch of skills in this game that transforms one card into another, like the skill that turns Blue Eyes into alternate Blue Eyes. But the most unhinged iteration of these is Ishizu's No Mortal Can Resist, which takes every monster in your opponent's graveyard and just transforms them into Skull Servant after you lose 2,000 life points. I've talked about Ishizu's other graveyard skill before, which is just Necro Valley on wheels, but this one is considerably funnier. Now, unlike some of the other skills, this one is actually kind of good depending on the meta. I didn't realize how good until I looked at the deck usage and found uses from the last 2 years in COG decks from folks like Shui, who occasionally graces this comment section, and Ghost Eagle using it in Madolches. Madolche gang, let's go. And that's it for today. See, I told you the pacing was going to be kinda odd. Low-key, I was thinking about making Contract Procrastination its own episode, but it was both too short for one of those and too long for one of these. So I just flipped a coin and it ended up in here. I will at some point do a Labyrinth Builder episode, Mr. Sonic Man, because I miss that skill dearly, as I'm sure many of you, especially Mr. Playmaker, does. Anyway, thanks for watching, subscribe and like it if you did, and I will see y'all next time.